Anankelogy defines need as any fundamental requirement to function. You have a fundamental or essential requirement to maintain bodily fluid balance, for example. Your body requires water, and to expel excess water to maintain that balance. The less your body can stay in this optimal zone for functioning, the less objectively well you will be. The same applies to your emotional needs. Your life requires situational help from others so you can objectively function. In other moments, your life requires personal space for solitude. Just because you subjectively experience these needs when desiring friendship and when desiring solitude, respectively, detracts in no way from the objective nature of these needs, of these objective requirements to function. Anankelogy exists as a science because every need exists as an objective fact. Each of your fundamental requirements to function exists prior to and independent of how you subjectively experience or respond to them. That opens up your needs for empirical study. You can now put your objective needs under the microscope of social science. As a social science, anankelogy seeks to identify measurable correlations in how you experience your needs. These correlations can be predictably repeated. As one thing changes, another seems to change with it, not only once, but almost every time. Anankelogy can identify such relationships with a high correlation in the near 1.0 range, much as you would expect in the physical sciences like physics and chemistry. As you raise the temperature of water to 100 degrees Celsius at sea level and standard pressure, for example, H2O shifts from a liquid into a gas or steam. In terms of statistical correlation, that represents a 1.0 correlation. In contrast to those hard sciences, social science works with the complexities of human experience. That allows the soft sciences to find lower correlations as still meaningful. Psychology and sociology accept as significant a correlation around 0.6 and 0.7. That means there is around a 60 to 70% chance that one variable meaningfully affects an identifiable change in the other variable, even if not directly. For example, sociology lets us predict that when an authority figure coerces an individual to follow ethically questionable instructions, that a slight majority will go along, at least at first. Sure, there will be outliers who refuse to comply, and others who submit to almost any demand. But the vast majority predictably acquiesces to trusted authority figures, at least for a while, who asks them to do something potentially harmful to others. Sociological experiments verify this repeatedly. Anankelogy starts with much higher correlations because of the objective fact of inflexible needs. For example, the angrier I am at someone, the more defensive they get, because their need for social acceptance exists as an objective fact. It overrides our beliefs about rationally choosing to think the angry person is correct on the intensely expressed matter. Anger communicates rejection. The frequency of a defensive reaction hovers around 100%. If narrowed to what the person has done, then the provoked defensiveness is more likely to subside. But if vomited out as a broad-stroke rejection, the provoked defensiveness likely persists. While open to interpretation and vulnerable to misperception, an outburst of anger predictably triggers a likely reaction. The reaction itself is not a choice. The need for security asserts itself uncontrollably when an outburst of anger seems to risk one's inflexible need for security. Applied to the profession of need response, we can predict how unbridled anger fuels conflicts. We can appreciate how indulging in outbursts of anger easily reinforces conflicts. Need response correlates such indulgent anger with what it calls conflict porn, or when someone enjoys keeping a conflict going, much like outrage porn. Need response also looks at indulgent side-taking, where you take a stance on some issue more for the thrill of feeling right than trying to solve the issue. These easily perpetuate problems by preventing the resolution of inflexible needs, which predictably traps us in pain. Need response counters this downward spiral into adversarialism, of opposing others without regard for mutual interests. You can then realize why the adversarial judicial process and divisive politics tends to perpetuate problems more than solve them, all with a high degree of correlation. Need response remains anchored in the social science of anankelogy because your needs exist objectively. This adds a foundational reason for accountability to those affecting your inflexible needs, including authority figures. Only need response fully appreciates the inflexibility of your needs over the flexibility of authority and laws. Learn more about your inflexible needs and the visionary profession of need response at anenkelejifoundation.org.